I'm here with Lori Ridgeway, and I'm shocked to find out that this Lori is an artist, and she has an art show here at the club, and some beautiful paintings. Before we get into your art, Lori, can you tell us a bit about what you did in your previous, before you retired?
Before I retired, I'm an economist, and I worked as an economist teaching at U of A and U of C in Alberta, and then I worked for 35 years in the federal government as a economist / policy expert, a lot of it in international affairs.
Wow. And so you retire, and you're kicking around one day, and you decided, hey, I want to get into art. How did you possibly get into this and produce these beautiful paintings?
When I was in high school, I was an artist. I did watercolor and pen, and I had some works that traveled around on student shows. And then I was always planning on going to university in design and architecture. But a long story short, I'm an economist. But when I retired, I decided I wanted to get back into art. So I dabbled in it for a few years. And then in about the last 3 years, I got into it really seriously.
Wow, that's it. Now, we're going to discuss some of these pieces. Let's start with this one. It's called En-route to a New Tomorrow. Can you tell us about it?
This piece actually was sort of commissioned by someone who's familiar or associated with the Ottawa Hospital and the Ottawa Art Gallery, who were running a big art prize, and they wanted somebody had bought a painting that I had done, and they wanted me to submit a piece that would reflect a new recovery or change, that kind of thing. And so I chose this scene, which is actually from the backyard of the club, and it's reflecting these themes of recovery and renewal and community in 3 ways. First of all, it was the first nice spring scene that we had. It's an evening scene that I took at the back of the parking lot, and it reflects change out of winter into colorful spring. And second, it is about evening leading to new tomorrow. So that's sort of like a promise of a new day where you get a dawn that might be even as nice. And then community is about linkages, and so when I did this piece, I tried to make as many connections either with color or line or other things that I could in order to envelop that theme. So this one in particular, I knew what I was trying to do before I started. But there's 4 paintings in this back room that are all scenes from our back parking lot.
Well, let's go take a look at some of them. Lori, I got to be honest with you. I saw this painting when I first walked into the room, and I said, wow, that just caught my eye, and I just love it. Tell me about it.
This is one of my favorite paintings, too. It was a March day this year, I think, or maybe last year. And I was walking along the trails at Barrel Gaffney Park behind the Rideau Conservation Authority.
Right.
And it was kind of one of those days where it was the light, it was the heat, there was a coat undone, no mitts day walking in March. And I saw this light and I took a photo and I absolutely had to paint it. Yeah. And so the whole point of this painting was to capture the light and the feeling. And so this is looking across at Manotick. There's houses hiding in there. This is the end of Nickel Island. And it just was all about the light and the temperature. And this painting actually won a prize at the Eastern Central Ontario Art Association Juried Show.
Wow, it's beautiful. I just love it. Lori, very impressive colors in this painting. Could you tell us about it?
Yeah, this is a image that I had in my portfolio of photos. I'm a studio painter. That is a fern bed that was in the Pinny Forest. And that's the area on the corner of Woodruff Avenue and Slack Road.
Oh, okay.
That I always wanted to paint. And then, as most of us know, that forest is no longer. It was completely taken out by the Dureco, and that whole corner of the forest is nothing but now a field. And so this fern bed doesn't exist anymore. And so I just felt I had to paint it as sort of a eulogy to that gorgeous place and all of the ecosystem that went with it. And so this is a very big piece because it was a very big scene. It's 36 inches, 3 feet by 7.
Wow.
And it's just a really special, it was a really special place, and so I decided I had to paint it.
Wow, It really is colorful, and it's called a penny keepsake. This is called tone poem. Tell us about it.
Well, a tone poem is a musical term that stands for a piece of music that evokes a story. But when I saw this is all about tone. It's like four others here, it's just a scene from our parking lot looking out over the back, but it was a particular time of night when there was a particular light to it. And so I just exaggerated the light and tried to get the feeling of mood. And sort of, you can imagine that there was a full day ahead behind that. And it's just, it's very evocative of my style, which is really to celebrate color and line. And so it was very fun to paint. That's my newest. I did it 2 weeks ago.
Wow, it's a beautiful painting. Okay, Laurie, I got a couple of questions I have to ask you. I'm not an art critic or anything, but I had to know these two things. How do you start one of these things?
How do you start one of these things? Well, first of all, you have to find an image that you think is not only, let's say, quote, pretty, but that might actually move people to put it on a wall and want to live with it. There's lots of pretty things that you wouldn't want to live with every day. Then I'm a painter that really tries to make order out of chaos, so I just splash a lot of paint on, and then I just start adding layers until it turns into stuff. So if you look at these very closely, you'll see there's a lot of layers to them, and that's previous layers showing through when I've laid other layers on top. And that's how you get interest. It's not just flat. It's got the closer you get to it, the more you see, actually.
I'm quite impressed because you're creating this from your mind's eye. And the other question I have to ask you, how do you know when you're done?
That's the age-old art question. I think you know when you're done when you're afraid to add one more stroke for fear of wrecking it.
Okay.
And that's the only way I could describe it. When you're or you're more or less satisfied that if you were to post it somewhere like social media or whatever, that artists would say, yeah, that's finished. You know, they should, or not that, oh, you should have done this or that to it. But it's really, really, really easy to go too far and wreck something.
Yeah, I can imagine because there's so much going on in terms of all the brush strokes and everything, and I'm pointing like, how does she know she's finished? Anyway, these are available for purchase. So if you want to purchase one, how do we do it?
There's a little story on a tag beside every painting, and my email is there. And I also there's no prices here, but there's a price list in the lobby. Right. I'd really appreciate if people kept the documentation there. Some has already walked away. But my email is there and the prices are there. Just send me an email and we can make arrangements.
Okay.
It's very easy.
Laurie, thank you very much. You're so talented. And your show's on till August the 30th. And people, enjoy this art. And if you want to pick one up, you know how to do it. You know how to purchase one. They're all beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. We've sold 9, so I'm happy about that.
That's wonderful, Laurie.
Yeah.
Thank you.